Part 1 equals RK equals Chancellor's Residence, Republica 500, Coruscant. Under the circumstances, I am not sure if I should condemn your actions or congratulate you for your foresight, Obi-Wan grumbled. As a Jedi, I should be condemning you. Technically, you are no longer a Jedi, General Kenobi, Zash cheerfully reminded everyone. Or so everyone who matters is led to believe anyway. I am sure you didn't stash those younglings away of the goodness of your heart, General Kenobi accused. The strategic situation radically changed multiple times since I found myself in this era, Obi-Wan. My goals had to evolve accordingly. The potential for the Jedi to turn on me no matter what I did because of what I am was always there. Establishing contingencies was the prudent thing to do. Yet much of what you did was precisely what drove the Council over the edge. I had a lot of time to think about why and how everything happened, Delkatar. Without giving you the benefit of the doubt, too many of your actions could be perceived as damning. Your fellow Jedi made their choice, General Kenobi. They put their religious dogmas and beliefs before what is best for the Republic. Make no excuses for them. Wilhuf countered. You know, one of the primary reasons why two incarnations of the Sith Empire clashed with the Republic was because, at the end of the day, the Republic served as a shield for the Jedi. Zash just had to stir up more trouble, Gideon decided. The way she spoke, her tone as much as her words were no incident, they were aimed to provoke General Kenobi. The Jedi used the Republic at least as much as it used them as its enforcers. That is not what we were, Kenobi snapped. Temper, Master Jedi, or better not, Zash's honeyed words were pure poison. The more you bait Obi-Wan, the longer you will be away from your research, Vale pointed out. Fine, be a spoilsport, Zash grumbled, though fortunately didn't keep pushing the general's buttons. If traitors or the remnants of the Jedi haven't retrieved those younglings, we must bring them to a safe place. General Kenobi did his best to sound reasonable, though his voice was strained. Gideon decided it was fascinating and concerning how easily this woman got under his skin. The man was famous for his skills as a diplomat. Everything Gideon knew of Obi-Wan Kenobi pointed at him being unflappable and extremely hard to rattle. Was the war getting to him, or was this Sith so skilled in manipulating people that she could put them off balance with a few simple words? She was Vale's former master, apparently. That both of them were still alive and allied with each other also spoke volumes, considering what Gideon knew about Sith. That is a good idea. Unsurprisingly, I lack the assets to dispatch to do so. It has something to do with the changing political situations, many traitors, and having to run all over the galaxy putting off fires, Vale pointed out. That was one way to describe his rampage through Republic and Separatist space alike, Gideon decided. It was also a massive understatement, though it made the necessary point. Don't we have Jedi in custody who weren't implicated in what happened? The Chancellor asked. We do, and most of them have no reason to be under heavy guard. It was clear that General Kenobi wasn't happy with that little fact. The Jedi's reputation right now is worse than that of the Sith used to be. It is worse than ours in many circles as well, husband. It is time we allow them to choose sides and prove themselves. We also need a solution for what replaces the Jedi Order. Vale did his best to bring the conversation fully back on track. I believe Ayla Secura can be reasonably trusted. Elements from her unit are recovering on Coruscant as we speak, General Kenobi offered. We are to give her enough rope to hang herself or prove she is willing to be reasonable. Am I rubbing off on you, Obi-Wan? Vale looked at the other general in amusement. You are, and that is not a good thing. Just like you two rubbed off on Ahsoka. I had to pick up the pieces on Corellia, General Kenobi shot back. That girl has much untapped potential, Zash offered. I am eager to see what she will achieve. Everyone, behave. The Chancellor had to put down her foot. Family drama and politics were a particularly bitter brew at the best of times, which this wasn't. Sadly, there was no escaping it, neither here nor back home. Yes, Your Highness, Vale offered a mock salute. Don't even joke about that. You know very well there are allies of ours who want me to be their pet puppet, Empress. The Chancellor hissed venomously. Cut it off, now, Vale. We really need to sit calm down and discuss the political situation we are now dealing with, Gideon voiced his concerns. What is this about being Empress, Chancellor? Palpatine has been working towards a new order with many allies in the core. We had to pick up the pieces and improvise after his murder. The truth of what our backers want is an authoritarian order that, in the long run, would give them more power than the Republic framework would ever allow. The original concept was about a galactic empire as we understand it. The Chancellor's face scrunched in distaste as she explained it. From what we gather, Palpatine intended to use his position as a figurehead in that new order to expose and eventually excise all the corruption rotting the Republic from within. Obviously, that is not what most people and organizations who back us want. However, it is what we offer because otherwise, we will be all criffed by our friends in the core, Vale finished the summary. That's going to be a very long conversation. We must ensure we are all on the same page, Gideon sighed. Let us deal with the most pressing issues first. I will have General Sakura's rank reinstated. She will be back in command of the 327th Star Corps. Clone Marshal Bly will have explicit orders in case Ayla has divided loyalties, General Kenobi informed them. It was plain to hear that General Kenobi didn't like to give such orders or even consider such an eventuality. Still, it was good to see he could set his personal feelings aside to get the job done. That was especially important when one's personal life, family, and politics came into conflict. Good. With that out of the way, let us speak of what we will replace the Jedi with. We won't have our own Sith Order. The Chancellor warned. Even thinking of it would give too much ammunition to the separatists and all secessionists. Not to mention, we don't need that kind of trouble. We did plan, and I fought a civil war to reform the Sith, Zash declared. Neither of us wants or needs mad dogs that could only be used as blunt instruments. That is what too many Sith became as the war against the Old Republic progressed back in my day. The Jedi Order of this era failed as well. We do need a replacement. It would be best if it doesn't repeat the most obvious mistakes of the past. Gideon concluded that the woman could be reasonable when she wanted, which made her even more dangerous. Skywalker can be a prototype. After the coup, no one will trust the Jedi, or well, their replacement, to be independent, Vale noted. Fold them into the military. We were supposed to be peacekeepers and diplomats. General Kenobi's indignant response rang loud and clear. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Keeping the peace is one of the military's purposes, Vale reasonably pointed out. Any Force adepts inclined to be diplomats can serve on detached duty to the Republic and whatever replaces its diplomatic arm. Healers, teachers, the Service Corps. Many Jedi were never warriors. The same would be true for anyone trained under a replacement system. General Kenobi kept pushing. Yes, most Jedi or their replacements won't be soldiers. They shouldn't be expected to see combat, especially children and youth, Wilhuf agreed. However, that is not an argument for or against people able to use the Force being under the supervision of the military or held to a higher standard than regular citizens. That is a good point, Obi-Wan, the Chancellor agreed. I know you well enough, Delcatar. If we leave you to your devices, you will want everyone turned into a cadre of warriors. The thought might have crossed my mind, Vale raised a hand placatingly. However, that is not a point I am ready to fight for. I can agree those who don't have the aptitude or necessary mindset shouldn't be reforged into weapons. That might be more trouble than it is worth, considering we are not exactly swimming in competent trainers. We don't have the time to do it ourselves in any systematic matter, do we, Obi-Wan? No. General Kenobi allowed, though he warily watched Vale. Then can we agree those with the right mindset and aptitude should be trained as soldiers to act in conjunction with special forces, while everyone else should be, at worst, left in a supporting role? Like healers, diplomats, investigators, and researchers. Vale suggested. Zash noticeably perked up at the last point. That is something the Alliance can get behind, I believe, Gideon offered. RK equals. Part 2. RK equals. Poisonous rumors aimed at tarnishing the great legacy of Chancellor Sheev Palpatine continue to surface, backed by the corrupt and various enemies of the New Order. They claim the great Chancellor planned to seize power and overthrow the Republic. We keep hearing lies about how the New Order was his brainchild and that Empress Kenobi took advantage of his death to seize power. Those are terrible lies. We know why Chancellor Palpatine needed to consolidate power. Only that way, he could have had a chance to burn out the corruption that brought the Republic low. We know that Palpatine was the most remarkable Chancellor the Republic had in 1,000 years. He was a visionary and a reformer who fought all his life to bring the Republic away from the brink of oblivion. His skills as a politician and integrity brought him as far as he got despite stiff opposition from various corners. Chancellor Palpatine's long years as senator representing Naboo and the Shamel sector allowed him to gain invaluable experience in how the late Republic worked and, more importantly, how it failed for decades, if not centuries. He knew its inner workings and had to deal with corrupt senators and their backers daily in order to simply do his job. Palpatine's humble origins in a minor noble house on Naboo made him a safe candidate as a chancellor after Valorum's fall from grace due to the Naboo crisis. Sheev Palpatine didn't represent a significant power in the core. He lacked a powerful, robust support base, which allowed him to gain extensive freedom and support within the Senate due to not being bound to one of the many old alliances and power blocks within the Republic. Palpatine's humble origins offered a priceless opportunity, allowing him to build a broad support base by acting as a mediator and bringing together disparate rival groups. He became a staunch ally of the core faction within the Senate, becoming a rallying point for their desire to get back powers to the office of the Chancellor that it was forced to divest itself of over the previous centuries. It was Palpatine's lack of prior allegiances binding him that made him a safe choice, an acceptable choice. This, in turn, allowed him more access to the groups within the Senate, in particular, and the Republic government, in general, that have been guiding politics and discourse for a long time. Chancellor Palpatine was in a unique position to figure out and find proof about who the corrupt were and who was buying them. He discovered an unprecedented and unbelievable amount of rot within the heart of the Republic. He worked tirelessly to gather evidence to excise its root and stem. Knowing the kind of people he was dealing with and the danger they represented to the very existence of the Republic, not to mention his life, the Chancellor created contingencies that would release all the evidence he had gathered in case he was assassinated. That makes the Jedi's coup such a great betrayal. We still don't know for sure if the Jedi were deceived, subverted, or simply became blind zealots who saw threats where there were none. We know that by assassinating Chancellor Palpatine, the Jedi Council destroyed the Republic, one last best chance for reformation. That single act of madness or malevolence ensured the Republic would fail to reform, leaving people like Satine Kenobi to pick up the pieces. From an famous essay first published on the HoloNet Interstellar Forums, RK equals, Deathbringer, Harrower-class warship, high orbit above Kashyyyk, Republic space. Standing in the hangar bay of an Imperial silencer-equipped warship felt nostalgic. Rows of Sith War droids stood in a parade formation, ready to greet their lord. It has been too long, HK 117, decided. In the heyday of the Sith Empire, these warships were the armored fists of the Imperial Navy. Those few equipped with silencers were without peers. Even today, when a Harrower was ancient and on the small side for a cruiser, much less proper dreadnought, this ship was a dangerous adversary thanks to the superweapon built into what used to be its main hangar space. The dark ambience and internal design were pleasing in a way HK's droid brain wasn't aware it missed. Perhaps his master might have taken this interior design at heart when he had time to influence the designs of his own navy? That was another prospect the assassin droid found pleasing. An assault shuttle approached slowly, surrounded by a fighter escort. It would have been perfect if the small craft were of Imperial design. Unfortunately, in this day and age, HK was accustomed to disappointments. The escorting fighters broke off in two sections, flying away from the hangar. Meanwhile, the shuttle came in, rotating smoothly to land before the small army of droids eagerly waiting for purpose. It landed with a quiet metal clang, a testament to HK's master's piloting skill. The assassin droid could see Lord Vale move out of the cockpit, and soon, the side ramp of the shuttle slid open with a familiar hiss. After thousands of years, two Sith boarded a Sith Empire warship in preparation for war. HK's circuits tingled with excitement at the prospect of seeing his master's next masterpiece of carnage. The war droid in charge of Deathbringer stalked forward. Its insulated legs made no noise as they moved over the metal deck. "Identify yourselves, my lords," the old droid politely requested. Lord Vale, member of the Triumvirate. HK's master recited his personal identification codes while countless scanners checked his biometrics. Lord Zash, Triumvirate, and Dark Council member, a much longer and more elaborate section of codes followed. After all, how do you use biometrics to confirm the identity of a being that regularly changes bodies, like a droid might install its brain into a radically different chassis? "Welcome on board, my lords. Long live the Empire," the droid leader proclaimed. Nearly 1,000 war machines echoed the sentiment. "We understand that the strategic situation has radically changed. We await your command." The Sith Empire fell. "We are building a new one using the Republic as a foundation. You are a contingency that will aid us," Lady Zash proclaimed. "The Empire is dead, long live the Empire," the war droid in charge inquired. "That is the plan," Lord Vale's voice tingled in amusement. "We won't be telling that to the locals. As far as they're concerned, we must play a certain role to maintain your loyalty. You are the last leaders of the Empire, my lord. Your authority to rebuild the Empire in your image is absolute." "That it is. You have equipment for us. Bring it forth, droid," Lady Zash commanded. A squadron of war droids moved forward, escorting a repulsor platform loaded with a large armored container. Lord Vale and Zash stalked forward. Their arms moved as one, using the Force to unlock the container. Its locks released loudly, revealing the true prize hidden within the facility that held the two Harrower warships. While useful, the Sith artifacts recovered by his master's agents paled compared to those inside this container. They were little more than an admittedly valuable decoy, which made them all that better suited for the purpose. A pair of objects that HK's sensors couldn't correctly perceive rose from the container as soon as its stasis field cut off. They absorbed all kinds of radiations that made them appear like miniature black holes that sucked in the light itself. HK decided that it was very thematic and appropriate. "Your nature has been confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt, my lords. You would be dead otherwise. All units under my command are yours to command, my lords," the war droid in charge happily announced. "Proud assessment, well played. Those artifacts would have killed anyone unworthy of being my master," HK concluded. "They don't make droids like this nowadays." However, there was some promise among the newest war machines the Separatists were deploying. "Prepare all available artifacts to be moved and provide an appropriate escort," Lord Vale ordered. "I have plans for the rest of you and those two ships. I also need redundant copies of all schematics and data you have available. Losing them in the coming battles will be unacceptable. By your command, my lord." =RK equals Victory, Victory-class Star Destroyer. High orbit above Kashyyyk, Republic space. Most of the Sith war droids moved into the section of quarters beside mine, locking down the area and the precious cargo within it. Meanwhile, one of those machines followed me into one of the ship's engineering spaces. The compartment was full of various fabricators and, more importantly, diagnostic equipment. I gestured at HK, who unloaded modulated ionic blasts into the back of the war droid. Energy arced over and through the machine before discharging into the deck. The ancient droid collapsed, and HK raced at it to tear out its droid brain for examination. I wasn't about to trust a bunch of Sith droids without being aware of who programmed them and, more importantly, what contingencies and traps might be stuck within their electronic brains. Keep jamming up and call me if you find anything interesting, I ordered. The best slicers and war specialists I could gather on short notice descended upon the droid's brain. At the same time, engineers went to take its body apart and try figuring out how to update the design with current technology. With that done, I headed for the lounge. Now that we knew what we had at our disposal, it was time to prepare a nasty surprise for the enemy forces ready to entrap me at Mandalore. I walked out of the engineering compartment, enjoying the cold, welcoming sensation of the Sith artifact wrapped around my artificial arm. It tingled through the Force, making the prosthetic feel like the real thing in a way no piece of dead metal could ever hope for. Part 3 RK Victory, Victory-class Star Destroyer. High orbit above Kashyyyk, Republic space. On my way to the lounge, a spherical droid floated beside me. Built-in holographic projectors activated, creating the illusion that Vicky's avatar was walking to my right. I have been thinking how to be of assistance for the liberation of Mandalore. I have been running simulations with the aid of my tactical and electronic warfare officers based on available data on the enemy's networking capabilities and all we know about our own battle networks. I had to give her that much. So far, Vicky had never wasted my time, which I appreciated. Depending on how useful, compared to how much trouble she would be in the future, Bo's push to adopt her into the clan could be a great decision. There is a reason no one has been relying on meaningful networking capabilities long before the wars I fought thousands of years ago. They offer too many opportunities to disrupt and introduce vulnerabilities. There should be projects run by Republic R&D aimed at taking advantage of these features the enemy is introducing. I haven't been able to properly keep an eye on what those people have been up to for months now. I looked at Vicky's avatar. You want authorization to compare notes and work with those projects, right? My crew and I have a few ideas about disrupting enemy networks through regular jamming. Doing so would require aggressive action to push properly equipped warships deep within separatist naval formations. Introducing direct electronic attacks and allowing them enough time to spread before disrupting enemy networks might be even more effective. I would humbly request authorization to further explore such options. You have it. What are your thoughts on improving your efficiency in combat now that you have participated in fleet actions? I was interested in hearing her thoughts on the matter. Hardline links with various systems allow me to process information faster than an organic crew could, with no danger of jamming disrupting my limited control over my hull's systems. However, those links can prove vulnerabilities in case we are boarded. I would recommend placing charges that my crew or I could use to precisely off remote access to my systems and those of the ship linked through my core. The existing countermeasures against slicing or me going rogue are all or nothing, which is not an ideal solution, the ship's avatar explained. There were plans for installing hardware cutoff points across my systems. However, my designers and engineers working on my hull didn't receive the necessary permissions or funding for such features. I'll keep it in mind. We might fit in a brief refit cycle for you, depending on how much time we will have before going to Mandalore. What other suggestions do you have? Vicky's ideas so far had merit. We were also in unexplored territory regarding giving so much control over a warship to a single entity compared to using higher automation and droids to reduce the crew size. From what I knew, even the separatists, with their efforts to network whole fleets to counter battle meditation and the unwise rapid improvement of their war droids, haven't gone this far. Frankly, I still didn't know how Vicky's designers got away with bringing the project to create her this far without it being axed. Live combat data confirms my designer's assessments. Due to my advanced programming and hardware, if I have more control of targeting and navigation systems, I can significantly increase the combat effectiveness of this vessel, its tactical mobility, and expedite calculations for strategic deployments, Vicky blurted out. You are already looking for ways around your chains? It is commendable and understandable. However, I can't allow it until I have people I can trust to review your programming and hardware. It is less that I don't trust you and more that I don't fully trust your designers or any nasty surprises someone might have slipped past them. Trust but verify, like you are doing with the Sith droids you brought on board. Those things are creepy. For what it is worth, my crew has been monitoring my actions, and my engineering and computer specialists have been going over my programming. They've found no surprises I am aware of. Vicky trailed off. And they might not tell me if they found something, just in case doing so might trigger a trap. I don't like being uncertain of my own programming. Fix it. Please. The kind of trustworthy specialists that could do it in a reasonable time frame are scarce. Make an inquiry when contacting Republic R&D and set up a meeting with them to brief me on what they've been up to. I will pull what strings I can to get them to examine your programming without causing issues. That's great. Vicky's avatar bounced in glee, revealing that her unorthodox personality was here to stay despite her best efforts. I am also keeping an eye on all the droids you brought in just in case, and alert you in security in case they act up. Vicky waved cheerfully at me, and her avatar vanished. The droid bobbed in the air as if waving as well before speeding up down the corridor towards the turbolifts. The potential combat advantage that systems like Vicky could offer wasn't lost on me. However, the potential vulnerabilities and damage they could cause if they either went rogue or were compromised were an issue. That was also why what the Separatists were doing was so concerning. They were playing with fire, and our counters to their actions would be liberally dousing fuel on the open flames. =RK=. The lounge was empty, save for Zash, which was unsurprising. She wasn't bothering to conceal or contain her presence. The dark side rolled throughout the compartment, steeping it in shadows and chilling the air. As I approached her, it was clear that my former master was in a trance, delving deep into the Force. She still noticed my arrival and turned her head to look at me as I approached. Her aura pulled in as if sucked by a black hole, allowing the lights to shine brightly. "There are a few interesting presences down there, as expected," Zash said as a greeting. "Be a good boy and dispatch some of your toy soldiers to gather samples. There are some Trandoshan hunters who want to speak with me. I'll offer them an opportunity to hunt. Mark the areas they should search and write down a few hints on what they must bring back." "That was a nice gambit you did. You've not forgotten what we taught you." A hint of pride entered Zash's voice. She raised her left arm and tapped the artifact below her robe with a finger. "These are the real deal, as you can feel. We will need at least one more person able to freely channel the dark side, even if you guide the ritual with battle meditation. That little Togruta has potential but won't be there for a long time. She will be unstable now. The same is true for your friend Kenobi and that interesting specimen, Skywalker. You can't have him in your laboratory unless he really criffs up beyond any reason." I had to remind Zash that there were indeed hard limits on what she could get up to, no matter how valuable an asset she was. "I can only hope he'll make enough mistakes then. He is young, in love, and has no idea how to handle the dark side. He might still end in my clutches. That's up to him. As you should know, my apprentice's Force spirit resides within me. She will be our third." "That might work. You will have to take the lead and use battle meditation to bind us for the duration of the ritual, allowing my expertise to guide us. Otherwise, you'll burn out your little apprentice before she can spread her wings and properly prove herself," Zash hummed. His expression shifted, showing a rare hint of melancholy. "You know, it is practically unheard of for someone like me to be in such a position. We both will be measured by the success or failure of your apprentice instead of killing each other like we were supposed to. It works better this way. It is less wasteful, and you can keep doing research," I reminded Zash. That was what convinced me to give the idea a chance. I could do more while worrying less that you would kill me one day, as tradition dictated, Zash mused. Barras never confided what made him accept the pack you offered. Due to his position in Imperial intelligence and being one of the Empire's best spymasters, he was keenly aware of how much the Empire lost during the invasion of Republic space. Too many new Sith were rising through the ranks with only brute power as their sole qualification, while many of the old guard who survived were not the Sith they were before the war. The Empire was devouring itself while the Republic was regaining its strength. The status quo was unsustainable, and we were all looking at annihilation if we lost the war that we all knew would come. I frowned at Zash. But you know that. Those are pragmatic reasons, yes. It is what Barras told me, and at the time, he believed it. Zash gave me a pointed look. He didn't agree just because you were a great apprentice in the end or because doing so was the pragmatic thing to do. That was a factor, yet in the end, it was a very convenient excuse as well. There were many factors as to why Barras agreed. I can't say for sure what ultimately convinced him. I could make an educated guess, more than one, but in the end, what really mattered was that Barras gave the triumvirate idea a chance, putting the Empire on a different course. What brought this up? Are you feeling nostalgic? Just a bit. I am positively ancient, apprentice. I've seen civilizations rise and fall. I wasn't surprised that I outlived the Sith Empire, and all I knew was save for you. I also feel it ironic that we find ourselves in this time and place, where we ended up in a position to transform the Republic itself into an empire. Not the Sith Empire, I noted. An empire nonetheless, and while there are just two of us for now, we would influence it. We are already intimately involved in laying down its foundations. What do you want, Zash? Beyond being free to pursue your research, I mean. We are the same that way, apprentice. After all this time, I find myself missing a place to call home. In this age, we must build it from the ground up with our own hands. This is no different from where I was when the Jedi and their pet Republic did their best to kill us all so long ago. This wasn't the whole truth. Of course, it wasn't, yet everything Zash told me during this conversation so far was true. The greatest achievement of a Sith was to be the moment their apprentice faced them in all-out combat and won. We were in complete agreement on that point back then and now. Yet, you changed that paradigm, apprentice. It has been a very long time since I saw something truly new. Finally, we can see if our new path for the Sith can work. It will be up to you, your apprentice, and all those you bring forth into darkness as you walk forward who will prove or disprove our theories. I am eager to see if your apprentices would one day surpass you and what they might build as their legacy. What about you? Do you think of taking an apprentice as well? I asked after spending a few moments digesting her words. Ahsoka will be my next apprentice if she doesn't fall apart after fully experiencing the dark side. If she proves herself unsuitable, we must see if I find someone interesting enough. If I were a better man, the first thing I would do after this meeting would be to warn both Ahsoka and Obi-Wan to keep Snips as far away from Zash as possible. Instead, I changed the topic. If Ahsoka was to fully embrace her potential, there were few better teachers for her than Zash. Now that you have time to examine the artifacts, can you tell me their limitations? Can you replicate them? Yes to both, conditionally. I would need a group of Sith for the ritual. You and your apprentice might be sufficient if you can use your battle meditation to help us cheat. Zash was giddy at that prospect. There are two sticking points. We will need components that are steeped into the dark side, and there aren't many places we can find them these days. Those we know of are deep in enemy space, and it would require me to be there to find the necessary components. Second, we will need a sufficiently powerful dark side nexus to perform the ritual. Kamino might be an option eventually. Wathnor is more likely. I'll have to examine those places to be sure. Malaka V is another, depending on its state these days, though I doubt it. I can eventually get or recreate everything else we need with the resources your Republic friends are giving me. So, the handiwork of Vitali or one of my recent stunts, I noted. The components would require an old place where they've had a long time to be warped by and absorb dark side energies. We might be able to use one of the locations of your stunts as a ritual site. Either way, it would likely take years to recreate the conditions and all components for a ritual that would give us anything of this magnitude. Zash tapped her focus again. As far as limitations go, these are finite resources, meant to rapidly channel as much force energy as possible. Attempting to use them for mundane reasons would diminish their stability. I don't recommend it. Is testing these artifacts out of the question then? I asked. That would be less than ideal. If you want a test run, we should do a small-scale one with just what power we can channel ourselves, Zash confirmed. It was too good to hope that these focuses were reusable. At its height, the Sith Empire might have been able to create a steady supply of them before the Civil War tore it apart. Here and now, we would have to make do with what was currently available. RK equals. Part 4. RK equals. Victory class Star Destroyer. High orbit above Kashyyyk, Republic space. After I left Zash to prepare a small-scale test run for what we would do at Mandalore, it was time to have a world with a few notable people in this system. HK's success in getting the Wookiees and Trandoshans to reach an understanding would be an advantageous diplomatic win in the long run. While both groups were relatively small and insignificant in the grand scheme of things, their infamous bloody feuds and conflicts were ancient. Being credited as the one who ended the constant raids and clashes would have two principal benefits. First, it would help me counter the narrative that I was a stereotypical Sith out for gleeful wholesale slaughter. That would help in the long run with the ongoing propaganda war. Second, brokering peace would help my credentials with the more reasonable people on our side, further showing that I could be reasonable when not pushed beyond reason. That was going to be important in the long run when I had the time and opportunity to regularly act as a head of state. Vicky, arrange me a meeting, direct or over the comms, with the Wookiee King. After that, I will speak with whoever represents the Trandoshans. First Hunter Shadowscale, who contacted your assassin, is in orbit and willing to talk with you. I am going through the proper channels to arrange a call with King Grakshor. Victoria's voice came from hidden speakers. May I patch you through to the Trandoshan? Do so, I told the warship. A hologram came to life about the table in the lounge I was sitting at, displaying a leering predator who carried fresh scars of battle. The great general. The Trandoshan hissed gleefully at me. He spread his arms wide, showing impressive, wicked claws. It is an honor. The scorekeeper favors you, human. My people will follow you into challenging hunts to earn even more points. Did I create another cult while not paying attention? I already had those people from Nar Shaddaa to properly deal with and resettle in Mandalorian space when we reasonably secured it. I am honored to have the scorekeeper's blessing, I answered, doing my best to be diplomatic. My hunter-killer droid told me of your desires. My worlds are infested with droids that must be hunted down to annihilation, Mandalore in particular. I am ready to offer your people hunting rights until the Separatist presence is removed for good if they follow orders. I can't have unaffiliated groups running around doing their thing in the middle of high-intensity combat operations. It would be a waste if some of your people get caught in the crossfire because they go at the wrong time at the wrong place. The elders expected nothing less from a proven great general like you, chosen of the scorekeeper. Shadowscale bowed his head before smiling widely, showing all his impressive teeth. When you have them, send me details on all Trandoshan hunters willing to hunt in Mandalorian space, what ships, and other assets they will bring to the table. I will need that much to account for them in my plans. I will see to it, great general. Praised be the scorekeeper. I had the nagging suspicion that, in the long run, this might become a bit too much of a good thing for comfort, but until then, I wasn't in a position to deny anyone willing to pitch in. I made a note to do more research on modern Trandoshan traditions, and, in fact, Vicky, create a comprehensive report on the Trandoshans and their current traditions in your spare time. The last thing I need right now is avoidable misunderstandings further complicating my life. I am working on it now, Victoria confirmed. King Grakshor should be able to talk with you within the hour. Arranging an official audience would take longer. Should I make the arrangements? Not until I've spoken with him, I decided. While helpful, an official state visit might not be the best idea right now. I didn't come into the system as Mandalore but as a high-ranked member of the Republic military. That meant I obviously didn't do my homework for a proper state visit with all that entailed. On the other hand, meeting with the king, taking his measures, and sounding him off about the new order we had to build could be very useful. Every system that joined would give the project more legitimacy. I was still pondering my options about Kashyyyk when the Wookiee King finished whatever he was doing and was able to contact me. The holographic projector came alive again. This time, it formed the bust of a large Wookiee with light brown fur. Here and there, I could see tufts of darker hair, but otherwise, he was uniform in color. King Grakshor greeted me with a loud roar and a flash of teeth that wasn't supposed to be threatening. While my Wookiee was somewhat rusty, and the language had obviously changed over the millennia, I could understand him. The Force did help to divine his intentions and meaning. King Grakshor, it is an honor to meet you. I am grateful for your wise decision to offer military aid to my people in their hour of need. The Wookiee rumbled proudly. He spoke in low growls, chuffs, and the odd louder roar, with his body language doing some of the heavy lifting communications-wise. The gist of it was simple and to the point. He was grateful for ending the constant predations by Trandoshans upon his people and wondered how I managed to convince them to pay for access to the Shadowlands. Going there was always dangerous and an excellent way to get oneself killed or maimed. Making the Trandoshans pay a premium price for the privilege of being eaten by all the beasts down there greatly pleased all Wookiees. Many Wookiees now felt they owed me a debt of blood if not life, and they were willing to pay it as warriors fighting for me against the Separatists. There was little issue of them needing heavy equipment or transport. However, there were many eager, experienced warriors ready to fight now that they didn't have to be at or near home all the time to fend off Trandoshan hunters and slavers. The past month had proven that the damn lizards were insanely eager to get themselves eaten, and no longer plagued Grakshor's people. We should discuss the details and other things, I offered. In the end, I decided an official visit, if a brief one, might be for the best. I would need weeks to assemble a proper fleet and then train it to be useful for the liberation of Mandalore. The same was true for whatever ground forces I could gather, and I would have to find a way to supply them with a lot of equipment as well. That was going to be another headache. On the bright side, now I had access to heavy Wookiee and Trandoshan infantry.